Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to our YouTube channel and welcome to this video. This is John from Programming Knowledge and this is part 11 of our PWA video tutorial series. And from the previous tutorial, we have a problem with the other request. So for example, if we navigate away from our app shell, we should be able to get the resources also. So for example, the CSS files, the font, any icons we are trying to request for our application to work. So basically, as you can see here, we have an error for this particular item right here, which is the font icon for material icons right here. So we will add this later on into our cache, but for now let's just focus on the problem at hand. Now currently we're setting the application as offline right here. If we refresh this, we should still be able to see the app shell, okay, of our application. Now if we go to the other pages, so for example, let's go to the about section and we will get this particular page. So this site can't be reached, so that means that we haven't added this particular request into our cache. So in order for us to do that, or in order for us to add that into our cache, just like what we have here for our app shell, and even if our application is offline currently, should be able to see the CSS, the styles, the structure of our application. Now we could do the same, for example, for our about section. So we could save this particular request, and then we should be able to see this particular page even if our application is offline. Now let's go back to the IDE and try to implement that. So in here we will try to limit also the size of our cache by using introducing another function. So in here, let me just add that particular function. So this will be cache size limit function. So basically what we want is to delete the older versions of the cache and then make use of the new version of the cache. So that's the purpose of this particular function. So const and then limit cache size equals to a function and then name and then the size as the parameter, and then open and close curly braces. And right here we're gonna open the cache, so that will be caches and then open, and we're gonna use the name of our cache specified by our parameter. Okay, so name, we're gonna open that particular cache, and then we're gonna tag in the then method, okay, or function, and we're gonna add open and close parentheses, or curly braces right here, and in here we're gonna specify the cache. There you go. And in here we need to return all the keys inside our cache. So basically we're gonna call the function keys and then tag in the then function and then open and close curly braces right here, and inside here we're gonna specify the keys of our cache. So basically what we're trying to do is get all the keys. So the key will serve as the name of our cache. For example, I'm gonna explain that later on inside the browser, but for now let's just continue writing this particular function. Okay, so we're gonna check here if keys.length is greater than the size or the specified size here as the parameter, and then we're gonna have to add the curly braces, and then what we will do is try to delete the keys, open and close, and then keys, and then 0. Right after that, we're gonna have to add in the then function, and then we're gonna call again the limit cache function. So basically this will try to reiterate, okay, if we have this particular if we have successfully deleted this particular key, and of course if the keys.length is greater than size. So if it is not greater than the specified parameter size, then it will not delete the cache that we have inside our browser. Okay, so we may need to remove this and then add it here. Okay, same with our keys right here, and put it right here. There you go. So basically this particular function, as I've said, is just to limit the size of our cache, because we don't want to overload our browser with old caches that we don't want to use inside our application. So that's why we need to call this function later on inside our fetch, because inside our fetch we're trying to save caches, right? So in here we're checking if the request matches an item inside our cache, then return that particular cache resource. Otherwise, return the request. There you go. But what we could do is, instead of returning the request, what we could do is fetch, call in the fetch function right here, and then tag in the then method or function, and then fetch. This is the fetch resource. Okay, and in here we're gonna have to open the dynamic cache. So that will be caches, and then open dynamic. Do we have a dynamic cache name right here? So const dynamic cache. We're calling this dynamic because we don't really know any other assets that we're gonna save right here, as opposed to the cache name that we have here, because we know all the assets that we're trying to request. Okay, and all these assets make up the application shell of our PWA. So what we have here is to add a dynamic cache name. Yeah. And what we could call it like dynamic cache v1. Okay, and then we could use this particular const right here. We're gonna open that particular cache, and then the then method and then cache, open and close curly braces, and then we could say cache dot put, and then we're gonna have to get the request URL. Okay, and then fetch resource.clone. So we're using clone right here because we don't have any access later on if we return this directly. So that's why we need to add this particular function, that clone right here. Okay, so and then right here we're gonna add the function limit cache size, and then we're gonna specify the dynamic cache name, and of course we want to save like 15 items or 15 resources inside our dynamic cache. So again, the purpose of this is to save only 15 resources. Okay, you could make it 10 or 8 or 5, it depends on your preference. So let me show you that. So for example, we want to make this 5, so there should be, you know, only 5 items inside our dynamic cache. There you go. And then after this will be return, and then the resource. Okay, and right after the right after this we have the then method or function. What we could do is tag in also the catch method. If something goes wrong or went wrong with our operation above, then we could have this particular logic right here. So event, and then we're gonna use the request and then URL. So we're gonna check if the request is .html. So for example, the request is, for example, about.html, and then something went wrong with the request, then we're gonna have to return a default page. So that will be greater than -1, so meaning the request contained this particular extension, the .html. So we're gonna have to return caches and then match, and we're gonna have to specify the default page. So that will be pages /default.html. Okay, and I think we have we didn't add that here inside our assets. So let me add that. We're gonna add the pages, and then /default.html. And inside our default, we could change this. So for example, yeah, we have here, you cannot view this page offline, and then we add here an option to go to the home page of our app, which is index.php. So let's try this, save our service worker file, and let's hope that it will work for the first time. And what we could do first is uncheck this, and let's just clear the site data for now. Okay. Service worker, let's just refresh our page. Okay, home. Okay, so we're getting all the resources that we want, and then if we go here inside our about page, we have this, right? And let's try to make this offline and then refresh our page. Okay, so as you can see here, we have this particular output even if our application is offline. So basically, we also save the resources for our about section right here. And if we check for the cache, so we have here the dynamic cache, and basically now we only have this particular cache items right here, and we set the limit of this particular cache into 5 items only. So whenever it exceeds 5 items, it will try to delete that, so that we will have a limited size of our cache. Okay, so I think that's all there is to it in this video tutorial, and in the next video we're gonna have to make use of the form new contact, and then we're gonna use the Firebase database so that we could save our users or contacts right here, because I believe currently we're just setting the contacts statistically or statically. We're doing that manually, so we need to fetch the contacts coming from our Firebase, and we're gonna set up that in the next video. So if you're excited, please watch the video, and if you are new here in our YouTube channel, you can subscribe and you can press the notification bell so you'll get updated whenever we have a new upload. So thank you for watching, guys, and see you in the next video.